again, I want to thank you for having us here, FilmLA, LA5 Rotary. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak before you and give you some information that you may not know. And thank you, John, for that wonderful introduction. We really appreciate it. So this is the only slide I'm going to actually read everything to you, but I do think it's important that you understand what the intention here today is. The film industry is a vital economic driver for the region here in the greater Los Angeles area. We're going to present an overview of local production landscape, highlighting the industry's economic impact. We're also going to share our role so you understand what we do at FilmLA to support content creators and educating communities, addressing some misconceptions that are out there, and explain some of the current initiatives that are underway, tax incentives, policy efforts, etc. So I'm going to move forward to highlight FilmLA. So we are a non-profit, not-for-profit organization. We're a 501c4, that means we're an economic development corporation. And we were founded by the city and the county of Los Angeles in 1995 to streamline the permitting process across jurisdictions. So we're in our 36th year. Very young organization compared to you, but we feel old right now. We'll tell you why later. So we are not funded by any governmental agency. Our funding comes from our permit application fees from the industry, just so you know that. We are also overseen by a board of directors that are independent, independent, they're studio and independent producers. They are labor leaders and business and civic community members. We cannot have government on our board because we contract with the government, to make that clear. We are a full-service regional permitting organization that provides an extensive amount of services. Amy's going to talk about that. But next, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that in 2025, when we realized that there are a lot of services that we provide that's difficult or challenging to get funding for, we formed a 501c3 organization called the FilmLA Foundation. It is an independent organization separate from FilmLA, has an independent board. But the reason for that is because we do a lot, many of you have seen the data from our research reports, etc. So we do research, we have a research team, we do public education programs, and we support emerging filmmakers. Emerging filmmakers are the future of filmmaking here in the region, creative content creators. So this opportunity with the foundation is that we're getting funding from private organizations or other organizations to support the work that we're doing. I can tell you right now, we've received funding from Netflix, from Amazon, from City National Bank, from the Weingart Foundation, and amongst a host of other individuals to support this work, which helps mitigate the cost of our permitting at FilmLA, because that was being funded through permitting costs. So if you'd like to talk to me after this luncheon about funding the sport, I'll talk to you about our next campaign. So that's my pitch. So next I'm going to turn it over to Amy to talk about the work that we do.
Thanks, Denise. All right, so I'm going to talk about permit coordination in just a minute, but I want to start off by talking about our solution services team. So we offer free production planning for filmmakers. It could be new filmmakers, up and coming, it could be experienced filmmakers. It's a free service that we offer where they can give us a call and get their questions answered. We can walk them through all of the processes, the requirements across all of the jurisdictions that we cover. Some of the things that we can help them out with, we can help with budgeting, we can help them actually find locations and parking locations, that's a big part of it. We can, if they tell us what their locations are, we can walk them through if there's any neighbor issues. So what we do is we use a GIS, Geographic Information System, and we can review that, and that gives us a lot of information about what's going on in neighborhoods. So they give us an address and we can say, okay, it looks like the frequency is getting pretty high here, neighbors are a little agitated, might want to think about that. Or this could be a location up in the Hollywood Hills and it's, fire danger at this time of year. So this might require some additional personnel. So basically any questions that filmmakers could possibly have. The other thing is that this team is also the first point of contact for community members. So if we will distribute a notification that lets people know ahead of time that filming is going to be taking place in their neighborhoods. And if constituents have questions or concerns, they call our team and we try to mitigate those before filming actually happens. So we work to resolve those issues. So next I'm going to talk about the permit coordination process. So that's really the meat of what we do. Basically it starts with the permit applicant submitting their application. We have an online state-of-the-art permit system called FilmLA. So what would happen is we have our team, they review the application, and we coordinate the permit based upon the requirements and the processes that are dictated by the jurisdictions that we contract with. So it's important to note that all of the requirements, whether a permit's needed at all, insurance requirements, deadlines, what personnel might be assigned, and even down to the fees that are collected. These are all part of what's dictated by the jurisdictions that we contract with. So it's our job to communicate that information. We will collect all the fees on behalf of our jurisdictions, and then we remit payment back to them. So once we vet it, the permit application, everything, we just send out a notification, then we're going to send it over to our approvers. And at this point, these are the designated approvers from each government jurisdiction. They're going to review it and see whether or not they're going to approve it. So our permits are good for up to 5 different locations over 7 days of filming, and it can be in any of the jurisdictions that we contract with. So we currently have 17 different jurisdictions. So on this slide, you can see we've just highlighted 3 of them. But this kind of shows the back and forth that we have as we're talking with our government partners. We're sending them the permit, and it's not that every single one of these entities might need to review and approve every permit, but it just depends on the location and what they're doing. And so part of what makes this easier for us to be able to do is that when we contract with new cities, we try to get them to adopt what's called the Model Film Ordinance. So the Model Film Ordinance is, it was actually created by the California Film Commission, and it's a way to streamline film permitting processes and also just to create more film-friendly policies across the region. So this is what we try to do, and this is what makes it more of a seamless experience, so that what your filmmakers will understand what they're getting when they come to this city. It should be the same as when they film in another city. So we always do our best to try to convince our partners to adopt that film ordinance. So while this is complex work, there is just one fee for this. It's a one-time application fee that applicants pay, and again, that's for all the work that we do, and that's not a per location fee. It's a one-time fee, and they can film in any of those jurisdictions that we contract with. So another really important service that we offer, it's an important part of our work, is making sure that the communities in which filming takes place remain sustainable. So to do that, we have an outreach and education team, and they go in and they provide support in these communities where filming is taking place. So what that means is they will meet with film industry representatives, HOAs, community members, business improvement districts, and They will handle kind of the issues that have, where there's high levels of frequency or parking has become an issue, things like that. So we want to make sure that we're keeping a balance. And part of their job too is to go in and to educate homeowners and these community members on the importance of filming and trying to keep the balance so that production can get what they need done, but at the same time we're not burning out our communities. Oh, back to you. Oh, you got that. Sorry.
Thank you, Amy. So you can see we provide a lot of services for our government partners at no charge. It's not taxpayer dollars, it is industry dollars that are paying for the services. So just to underscore that. So economic value, why is this so important? Well, if you can, I'm not going to read this slide to you verbatim, but it says, the entertainment industry is the third largest industry in Los Angeles, behind shipping and international trade. We're still the world leader, believe it or not. We're losing slices of the pie incrementally because of the competition, which we'll talk about that. But tourism here is relying on the entertainment industry as well. Every day that production happens, on location is a potential economic windfall for the economy. As you look at these staggering numbers, $180 billion, up to $180 billion a year for the county in the region. And that's through direct, indirect, and induced. So when we say direct, it's direct filming that's happening. Indirect, it's the, ancillary businesses that get support from the industry, that they're buying coffee, they're eating there, they're in the locations. Induced impact really means as employees are living here and working here in the industry, they are buying products, retail, they're going to restaurants, so that impacts the economy here. Critically important to this industry in this region. Cast and crew, how important is it for them? We still have the largest number of cast and crew who still live in this region, and they want to live here and be here with their families. How many times do we hear where they have to go off to, by the way, Atlanta is not the big hub anymore, just so you know. There's a big decline happening in Georgia. They're experiencing the same thing that we knew years ago, and Amy can talk about this too, but is that communities are up in arms, really frustrated with on-location filming. That's why we have to have a community outreach team. But if they have to fly to Tennessee or to Texas and their families here and their home bases here, it doesn't work for our economy and their work-life balance, the balance and work. So this is why we want to protect jobs here, and this is what I'll talk in a few minutes about the tax in film credit program, because tax film and television tax program, because it really is supporting and focuses on labor and supporting the entertainment workforce. We have many challenges that we're dealing with right now, and the world wants the industry right now. So the competing tax credits across the globe is creating a lot of issues that we are working with other organizations. So with that, moving on to production statistics. So as you can see, 2025 was a very slow year for us and for everyone. Things aren't going as well as we would like. Sound stages are down. They're about 62% occupied. Used to be 90% 4 years ago. And the downturn is relative to tax credit issues, fewer projects by the streaming companies and the majors. They're trying to balance their budgets and appease their stockholders, right? And then state and local policy, we have to work on that. We're continuing to work on that. So we want you to know that that's highly important for the work that we're doing. So I'm going to turn this over to Amy to talk about some of the misperceptions.
Yeah. So there's a lot of common misperceptions, and I'm sure if you guys have been reading the news, there's a lot of stories that you'll hear about what's going on in the industry, and people are really paying attention to it now, which is good. But there is some information out there that we want to make sure is clear. And it's important to call these out because it can take away from the larger conversation and some of the policy and issues that need to be happening on the state level and the local levels as well. So one of the big ones that we hear a lot is that the cost of film permits drives production away from Los Angeles. So we do hear this from smaller, low-budget independent films, and it's true that cost is a major factor for these types of productions. But we've also heard when we talk to the bigger studios that the cost of permits, the cost of the film permit processes, this isn't why they're choosing to film where they're choosing to film. Cost just isn't a factor. Permit cost isn't a factor in that. What is that there are millions of dollars of financial incentives that are being offered by other states and countries at this point. So that is really the main factor for these large studio productions. They're going where that money is. And it's often true, we're seeing more and more for independent films as well. So lowering costs and overall just making it easier to film is super important, and that's why we work very hard. We continue to work hard to try to get our cities to focus on that. But we have to be realistic about what's achievable. So, keeping those permit costs low is definitely important. We're going to keep trying to do it. But in and of itself, it's probably not enough to keep Los Angeles competitive. So, the other one that we hear is that local permitting is slow and inefficient. Well, in some parts of the region, that is definitely true. But I can tell you that's not true for LA. LA really leads the region in permitting efficiency. FilmLA can turn around a multi-jurisdictional permit in 3 business days, and that's most of our permits are 3 business days. And 2 of those days are so that we can provide advance notification to the communities in which filming is going to be taking place. More complex requests, ones that have full closures and they want to blow some things up, yes, those can take a little bit longer, up to 5 business days. But it's still rare in LA County to find cities that can turn permits around as fast as we can here in LA. So for perspective, there are 88 cities in LA County. 22 of them offer a permit turnaround of 3 to 5 days. 15 of them are served by FilmLA. And the rest of them take on average 10 business days to process a permit. So, and then we have this last one. This is the big one. It's too expensive to film in LA. And that's a fact. It is. Cost is a major factor. But it's not the cost of permits. The cost of living is high in Los Angeles, but the cost of living is also high in New York and the UK, which are 2 of our biggest competitors. The difference there is that when productions go there, they're getting financial incentives which are offsetting some of those costs. So what are some of the other issues at play then? Other issues at play is that there's neighborhood pushback. We have neighborhoods that are not film friendly. We're seeing increasingly high demands from communities for what's called inconvenience payments. So that's where somebody's coming to film on your street or a street and everyone in the community expects to be paid big sums of money. And we have heard that this is unique to Los Angeles. So all of these things are what are contributing to pushing production out. So what we're trying to do is we have our outreach and education department. Like I said, they're going out there, they're communicating, trying to educate on the importance of filming. We have an educational campaign, which Denise is going to talk about in a little bit, but for now I'm going to turn it over to her to talk about the state.
Multitasking is not my thing, just so you know. I know we have a limited amount of time, so I'll talk briefly about the California Film and Television Jobs Program, which is the tax credit program in a moment. There have been many city and county specific proposals that we've been engaged in. We're working with Mayor Bass's office, the film liaison there. We've been working with the county, many proposals that are trying to streamline and reduce costs, as Amy mentioned. I'm not going to go through the details. If you are interested and you want to talk about those details, I will let you know. But it's about reducing personnel requirements, reducing fees, identifying opportunities that we can streamline better through those processes. That's the work that we do, by the way. We present annual reports to both the city and the county and our other jurisdictions. Amy is deeply involved in this work where we say, this is what we can do to improve. We're starting to get traction now. So this is the good news. I'm going to talk a little bit about our low impact permit pilot program. That's a mouthful. So I'll call it LIP for right now. So the program itself, we actually initiated in early 2025, presented it to the city of Los Angeles. It's a program that helps us to understand what the needs are of these small independent filmmakers are. It reduces, so we have a $931, don't ask for why at 931, it has to do with the CPI stuff. Anyway, but we reduced it to $350, so it's a 58% decrease, including a decrease of LAFD fees and other fees, so that these small independent productions can do this work. We launched it in April. It will sunset as a pilot at the end of October. But we want you to be aware that we're working on efforts, not just this effort, but motions that were presented by Councilmember Nazarian about microshoots, Blumenfeld, about all these other things. So this is the work that we're doing to work with the city. The city has also created an ad hoc committee on entertainment, I can never remember the name, film, entertainment, and creative industries that will be meeting probably the end of this month or maybe early next month to start overseeing all of these motions and these activities. So there's a lot of work that's being done here. Again, I know we're limited on time, so I'm going to say Film and Tax Credit Program. If you want to go to californiafilmcommission.org, all this information is there, $750 million a year. It will sunset. It will not sunset because we're not going to let that happen. MPA and the EUC, none of these organizations will. But it's a $3.75 billion program that will sunset in June 30. One thing you also need to know is whenever if you know, the California Film Commission just recently released 9 television projects last week that receive about $121 million in tax credits. They have 180 days to actually start doing the production. So there's a lag in time when a production receives a tax credit and we see the activity. Television is often on stage. So for FilmLA, we don't see the on-location activity. So we track it as much as we can, and we continue to track it. Lastly, it's my new pitch. Back to the foundation. So we're getting ready next month to launch the LA Loves Film campaign, a campaign that we started in 2020 and then the pandemic hit. So that was fun. And so the foundation has taken over this campaign, and this campaign is going to really put the message out there. We've gotten support from Clear Channel to give us some free billboard space. We've gotten support from other organizations that I mentioned earlier. This campaign is really important to really elevate the recognition and understanding of our communities about why this industry is so critical to this region. And this is where we need your support, whether it's funding or just support in getting some stickers and putting it on your car. So we're going to be pushing this out next month. But this is an important part of the work that we're doing to make sure that that this entire region understands. And it's going to be co-branded with the city and the county of Los Angeles and sponsorships from other organizations as well. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to allow us to speak with you. And
so thank you for the overview, which is great. You talked about so many different issues that affect films being filmed in LA. I'm just curious, when you look at Atlanta or New York, you mentioned UK, Vancouver, different places that films are, from like a corporate standpoint, I look at a sales process to sell my product and the effectiveness of my sales force. Is there or are there like sales forces in those communities that are going out and trying to attract movies coming to them that surpass or are in addition to the components you spoke about? And is that something that needs to be focused on? Do you understand what I'm looking at?
well, I think it's an excellent question. So we're kind of unique because we're a private nonprofit organization, but across the globe and states globally, they have film commissions that are supported by government. So those film commissions do the work of attracting and retaining. That's something that we are looking towards trying to achieve a balance to see if we can get some funding to do more work in that area, because we believe that's where there's a little gap.
Hi, Mike Henkel, Lionsgate. Y'all should be commended and applauded by not only the industry, but the entire region for the work that you do, and we really appreciate it. My question was, since the California Film Commission has loosened somewhat the restrictive nature of the credits, and this is a credit that we've always complained was created and almost impossible to use if you're a public company. Do you see what's the trending and from that change, and then also what do you see in the future? Because we haven't been the easiest jurisdiction to work in.
Another very good question. So,
Not your fault.
we work with the CFC and just giving them feedback, and so does the NPA and the EUC and all labor organizations, etc. So they are working on some issues specific to the DEI requirements that make it very difficult to qualify. Other issues that came forward, recently, SB 122, it's not the CFC's problem, it's the state assembly's problem, where SB 122 is basically capping the amount of tax credits you can get reimbursed annually by $5 million. So if you have a $100+ million project, how many years is it going to take for you to get that? So we're working on that with Senator Ben Allen and Assembly Member Rick Spur, but they're working on doing some reforms in their own offices. We would speak with them regularly, Colleen, Bell, and Leah, and Yeti. So I can't tell you exactly what they're doing because they are a California Film Commission, but we give them as much feedback as we can through all the organizations. I'm not afraid to say this, because I said this earlier. The tax credit needs to incorporate above the line. We are not competing with other tax credit programs because of that. And so that's really what prevents a lot of production coming back here. Post-production, looks like that bill will be approved, which will help us because we were the post-production capital of the world for a long time. Commercials industry, that one's been deferred, and we're hoping that that can be resurrected in the future. So there are some reforms happening, and there are a lot of groups that are doing this. I mean, letters and letters. I think 350,000 letters went to the state recently about all these issues, so.
Hi, thanks for being here. You may or may not be able to answer this. So, but with the Paramount deal, and the mayor said yesterday that you guys got to hurry this thing up. The question is, what do you predict as far as the impact with employment and how many people will or will not lose jobs with your experience? What do you think would happen with this?
I think it was yesterday or the day before, Los Angeles County supervisors had a report done by CDL Economics about this impact. And the report revealed that the impact could be 4,500 jobs lost, which equates to a lot when we talk about direct, indirect, and incentivized economic impact. We're not an economic research organization. We gather the data and we will work with others, but it could be, pretty significant, but we just don't know. We don't know because we don't know where Ellison is positioning himself, whether merger happens or it doesn't.
I lived in Altadena and I was surrounded with the people that really support the film industry, like the photographers and the best boys and all of that. And as you know, there's thousands of houses burned down. How is that affecting our ability to be the film center here in LA and to go forward?
So I will say that the county has been supportive of the industry. They're trying to strike a balance. We work with filmmakers every day who call and want to ask questions about properties that could be on the edge of the burn zone. And everyone is evaluated by the county on a case-by-case basis. But I can say as long as it's not in an active area that is, going to interfere with construction, they have been approving and letting filming go on. And I think the people in Altadena have been very supportive of seeing it return. There's a lot of industry folks that live in the area.
I had a question around how much of the slowdown do you think is due to streamers simply not charging enough for content? In the old days, it used to be 16 minutes of ads for every hour. Now, they don't do more than 5. When you look at Facebook, Facebook sells only advertising. They make $50 per user every month. Netflix charges $15. To me, I don't think you fix any of this without connecting that disconnect in revenue.
Well, my Netflix account is $26 a month. I'm just saying, they have been increasing. However, I'm not sure that's the issue. I do think some of the new paradigms that we're facing are verticals, right? These verticals that are shooting these small clips you can watch on your phone, and they're making, what I just read, I think it was in Variety, that the verticals industry is going to be making $150 billion in the next year. And they are not shooting legally, no permits. And so we're working with one of our council members who wants to make sure that we can provide a verticals option to shoot legally. But I think that's the bigger issue than the streamers like Netflix and HBO and Hulu, et cetera, is verticals are going to take over in a way that we have to be careful about.
I am very fortunate that I get to work with every country in the world that's posted here on the West Coast. And the number one thing they ask me every time is, can you please show us where certain films, where certain television shows, where everything took place. And part of what I end up doing is actually taking these iconic locations. The reason I bring this up to you is because whether it's LA Confidential or Chinatown or anything that we have seen in the movies that makes it so that LA and California are the places where they not only hold up as the icon for what America is, the American West, the American, far west beach, from Baywatch to you name it. They're always looking at us as the iconic representation of what is America. So they move here and they put their consulates here because they know that we are, or they believe that we're the megaphone of the world for entertainment. They know that entertainment is the way in which they can communicate a message that can't be said otherwise. That intangible value is so extraordinary for them that for LA and for us and for perhaps your office to not be able to financially step into it and say, listen, it's an unknown quantity, it's worth our investment to put a huge amount of money behind that is so extraordinary that I just can't emphasize to you enough that this is what's going away. And unless we can, you can, anybody can in LA invest in the ability to finance that intangible and to reach out to the marketing for that so that films stay here, we will lose this identification that is completely the West. I mean, from John Ford and what everybody in Europe thinks about the West, it's because of his films, from The Searchers to everything that he ever did. They define America still that way, even today. And so when they see a film like LA Confidential or Chinatown or something that took place even back in the 80s and 90s, they completely identify us as that still. So it's going away, and we're hoping that you can make a difference and change that.
I just want to recognize that comment. Thank you for that. Because this is where we need the investment to do that work, because we have lots of ideas. There is a motion from council member Nazarian about doing some of that work to make sure we get that messaging out with the Tourism Bureau, through all of this work. But it is, we have 74 employees. And we're a small operation, so we have to really engage others to help us launch this kind of a campaign, which is part of our FilmLA Loves campaign, believe it or not. It's just making that work happen. Getting the message. I had this concept years ago. It's called it Filmed Here. It would be an app where you could just walk around LA and you could say, oh, wow, this was filmed here, So, we gotta do more of that. We have to.
Hello, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us today. The whole fact of the matter of that there has been a lot of, especially with Hayden Panettiere's passing, that there's a lot of exposure now on the gatekeepers and how that has caused a lot of unsafety for not just children, but people in general in this industry. Do you think, and then also with the fact of AI too, taking over, do you factor all of those into LA just not wanting to lose its grip on the gatekeeping system and wanting to adapt to independent ways of doing things that could actually be safer, healthier, and more virtuous for this industry?
It's a really tough question to answer. It's a lot to unpack, and I appreciate that, because those are all the issues that we're facing. In our role at FilmLA, is what we do is we try to advise our partners, our government partners, on what we see and what we hear. Amy's team is hearing a lot of what you're talking about. We try to have as much influence as we can in supporting this industry. I mean, again, that's what our mission is about. So whatever messaging that we can put forward, and we have, I'm looking at Gabby over here, we have focus group conversations with independent filmmakers, with PGA, DGA, LMGI. We constantly meet with these groups to get the feedback on what they think that we can be doing better. And in those same spaces that you're talking about, that's what we have to, be concerned about. And this is why I come back. I'm not pitching you all for fundraising. I am. Just to be clear. But it really, this is not about a pitch, but it's really about why the work at the foundation becomes more important, because we need to do that more outreach education and support the work of both emerging filmmakers and long-term filmmakers as well. So.
Hi, good afternoon. First, I'd like to say thank you. You are amazing, and what you do is amazing. I've known this organization for a very long time. I know you cannot solve everything in the entertainment industry. It is just huge, and it's a pyramid of businesses that supports it, and it supports those. But you were mentioning earlier about Paramount and what's going on. If I'm correct, they found a sign, and they're leaving California, and they're going to go to Texas, to Dallas, Texas. Now, I think that's going to affect us even more bigger than everything else that we're talking about as far, not only jobs, but every vendor, everything that it touches, it creates money in our economy here. So I just wanted to mention that. And thanks again. You guys are very lovely, and thank you for all you do. And if it's filmed in LA, I will tell you where. All I have to do is look at a little tiny clip, any scene, any movie, and I know where it is.
I'm a native, I'm the same girl, so just so you know. Yeah, the threats about leaving, again, as I said, we don't know what's going to transpire. And so, we just have to leave it to the legislators at this point. Because it is an antitrust legislation case, and that is truly what the issue is. So Ellison and ISFA, you know how much money they have.
Yes.
Hello. Thank you very much for coming and sharing, and it's good to see that we've got great women in film at all aspects of film and film production. I would like to ask you with regards to safety and security and how that affects, it's a little bit about what my friend over here asked, but it is really more about location, safety, and security throughout Los Angeles County and how that affects our film industry and people coming to film in Los Angeles. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges there. We've definitely seen some of the locations that were more heavily filmed in downtown and in Hollywood. We're not seeing as much filming there. MacArthur Park, exactly. There are a lot of challenges. It's something where the city has, they have a lot of great outreach groups who work, organizations that work in productions. We always put them in touch with those organizations, and it's about sometimes having the time and how badly they want to film in a location. Because the reality is if they need that location, they're going to do the work. They're going to put the time in. They're going to work with the organizations to go out, to speak with people, to see what they can do to try to help people out, maybe temporarily relocate people, offer people incentives to relocate, things like that. So we are seeing that it's happening. It's not that it's completely shutting it down, but if it's a smaller production and they don't have that time or the manpower to be able to do it, then they're not going to be able to film in those locations.
Got one more here, Charles.
Hi there. I work at Disney in TV production, and I oversee some of the back of house functions, transportation, costumes, and sustainability for production, so environmental sustainability. I know you said that the permit fees don't sway where somebody films, and I would agree with that, having seen how we look at things. But I know when we film in Vancouver, for example, if we adopt various sustainability practices, tie into the grid or do things like that, there are discounts or reductions on the location permits. Do we have anything like that here to promote sustainability?
It's an interesting question because that was started a few years ago. We were working with Disney and Warner Brothers on that in the local region. We've had some challenges, I would say, maybe opportunities. Let's talk about it. So we have some opportunities to get the city and the county to work closely with us on that. It's been, we tried to put, grids on our GIS system and do all this, and so it is a work in progress. It is a work in progress.